What's going on? Is it the intro?
Yeah, that was the intro. Welcome to the Full Nerd episode 30, recorded on August 28th, 2017. We're Rusty here. I've been in Oregon watching the eclipse. Brad is sicker than a dog. I'm Gordon Maung. Brad Charkis, co-host. Ooh, my laptop just turned off. Elena Yee.
Hi, everybody.
And controlling the vertical and horizontal and Facebook and YouTube is Dan Masoko, who's filling in for Adam, who is at a wedding. Oh, he's not going to say anything.
No, just the silent guy in the background.
Can't put him on the spot like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we do that.
He wasn't even looking at the camera. He's just like, hey, everybody, I got to get back to work.
It's tough to push buttons and talk at the same time.
Dan, you're like the air traffic controller. Like that. That's like, I think there's an airport movie where like, where's that old big dude? He'd walk in and everybody in the control room had like passed out and he had to take over. You're like that. You're taking over the control room. Okay, he's not even entertained by this. He's just like, I'm trying to land these planes here.
He's doing work, Gordon.
United 747 Heavy, Taxi 478.
Can't have people land on the wrong runway.
No, can't have that. Okay, we are going to get into Brad, of course, who is sick as a dog. He's got the big news on Vegas. He's got to talk the most.
Sorry, Brad.
Brad, are we? So I got to admit, I've been off the grid for a week and a half now. So I feel like Vega, immense letdown. Can you even get the damn things?
Vega 64, which came out on the 14th, it trades blows with the GTX 1080, but it uses a ton more power. The reference cooler is incredibly loud. It gets super hot. The only real reason to buy that card is if you already have like a super swanky FreeSync monitor. Like if you already have a FreeSync monitor that you spent like $600 or $700 on, you're going to want FreeSync, get it over the 1080. Vega 56, the cut down version, is a lot more compelling. And that actually just hit the streets today, at least theoretically, because I made sure I was at my desk early for when the retail availability hit at 9 a.m. Eastern. And the interesting part is that AMD wouldn't actually say when retail availability would hit. I asked them about it this weekend. They wouldn't tell me. But they did launch at 9, and I never even saw it available. Like the second that
so it just went straight out of stock?
Yep, immediately out of stock. 3 different models, 4 different models in the U.S. There was a XFX stock version, $399 at Newegg and Amazon. Best Buy was selling it for $499, so $100 markup. There was also a $399 Sapphire card, and you couldn't buy any of them realistically. There are people, I was looking at the forums after, people did manage to get some, but like one person saw it immediately, added it to his cart, and the sale didn't even go through. Like they were out of stock that fast.
Sheesh. But hang on, you said $499? Who's going to buy that card at $499?
Nobody should if you're a gamer. Because this card is a little bit faster than a GTX 1070, which is pretty good, right? I mean, it uses a little bit more power. Not an outrageous amount, so 60 watts, which is a lot. But after looking at Vega 64, it's like, 60 watts ain't that bad.
How much?
What's up, Gord?
I saw 64. I just want to. So I mean, with the messaging we've known for weeks, they said it would trade blows, roughly on par. So it's like a good 1440p gaming card, right? 1440 very high to ultra on 64.
I would call it just like I call the 1080. It's a very good like the ultimate 1440 gaming card. If you want to hit high refresh rates, that's good. It also work with 4K if you have a sync monitor. So if you have FreeSync, if you can hit 40 to 60 with FreeSync, it'd be pretty all right.
But how much more power?
Oh man.
Like 30 to 30%?
No, over. I didn't actually pull that up because I am
sick.
bad at planning.
That's what we're not ready at all. Brad is sick.
I got you.
The eclipse.
So we're talking about 1080 versus 64, right?
Yeah.
So let's see. Under load, 1080 was drawing 241. The Vega 64 is drawing 347.
Oh.
Yes.
At idle, they're closer. So idle 1080 was drawing 66.4, and the 64 was drawing 60.3.
But it was also loud too, right? That was the reference coolers.
The blower coolers are obnoxiously loud. I haven't heard anything like it since the 290, 290X era. They really cranked these things. They obviously really cranked this GPU to be able to hit 1070 and 1080 level performance. That's why you're seeing such crazy power. And the fans, I am shocked that they didn't consider going to a dual fan solution with these.
Yeah.
Because they're just obnoxiously loud. And I flat out don't recommend the liquid cooled Vega 64. We ended up giving it a 1.5 stars. It's gorgeous. It's the first card ever that I had sitting in my desk, and my wife was walking by and she stopped in her tracks and says, "What is that? That's gorgeous." It's that beautiful. But it still only gives you roughly 1080 level performance, but it uses even more power. And it has liquid cooling, but even though it has, go ahead, Eleni. I think you just read the power.
402 watts.
That's the whole system. That's the whole system, to be fair.
Yes, but that's an additional watt. That's more than 50 watts more. Like,
so it's
55? Yeah.
Are they not getting the clocks out of the water? I mean, or is it just, so what is the water doing there? Is it just simply...
The water does give you a performance boost. It depends on the game. Some games you don't see much, but some games you could see up to about 10% more performance maybe. But the problem is they're selling it as part of those Radeon packs, where you have to get the free games that you pay $100 for, and coupons for some other stuff. So this thing costs $700, and in that price range, just get a GTX 1080 Ti because it is head and shoulders faster than this thing for the same price.
On air too.
On air, but yeah, that's the interesting thing because this thing generates so much heat that. We saw temperatures on the water-cooled version go up to 60 degrees, which doesn't sound like much, but usually water-cooled graphics cards are more 50 to 55. And I was using it against, I think it's $720, the Ponies GTX 1080 Ti accelerator card, which is a triple fan card, GTX 1080 Ti, and that only got 66 degree temperature. So it's only a 6-degree difference between similarly priced GTX 1080 Ti with the triple can pollution and the liquid-cooled Vega 64. So even the cooling advantage isn't really there. And my version had a nasty coil line, so it wasn't much quieter either. So
your 1080 Ti or your 64 water?
My liquid-cooled Vega 64. Whenever I was on desktops or in menus, it was buzzing.
Oh, great. So that doesn't sound too great.
No, that card in particular, we flat out didn't recommend. Vega 64, like I said, if you have a FreeSync monitor, I mean, you might want to, if you want to trade power efficiency for FreeSync, you could do so. One of the things that I'm interested about that I find most interesting about that is that these cards appear to be in very, very limited stock. So they're selling for, like, the cheapest you can find them these days for the air-cooled version is $700. Which is $200 more than what MSRP is. It's the same as a GTX 1080 Ti. So that completely blows away the FreeSync value proposition unless you want to wait. But Vega 56 is much more interesting. It's a little bit faster than the GTX 1070. That's the card that came out today, the 56. It uses more power. It still is hot as hell, but or loud as hell, not hot as hell. Pardon me. It actually ran decently cool. But pardon me. But yeah, that one holds up pretty well. It's sold out in minutes, like I said, so that you can't actually find it. So we'll have to see how soon stock gets back in on that.
Is that just because AMD basically stocked, 5 of those at Newegg and 5 in Amazon, or is this? I know we can't really tell, or is it just the miners ruining the fun for Vega?
I've asked questions. They don't want to talk too much about volumes. I've asked a couple times about overall volume as well as what they're allocating to Radeon packs versus standalone cards.
Right.
They won't get into details. My gut says there won't be very many of these, at least initially, because they're using HBM2, which is very expensive, very supply limited. They're using these massive 500 millimeter dies, which is huge. The GTX 1080 is this 314 millimeter, so they get a lot fewer dies per wafer or whatever. So it's a very expensive card to make. And there have been rumors, unconfirmed, don't know, just saying there have been rumors that AMD might actually be losing money with these In which case, a $400 Vega 56 is basically the same, package as what you find in 64, just a little bit cut down with some missed things. So
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if there doesn't wind up being many 56s out there.
This sounds like Fury X all over again. I mean, did that ever get better? I mean, Fury X, that was just
Yeah.
nobody had those.
Fury X got better maybe 3 months after launch. They were in very short supply as well. A big difference there is that the Fury X actually competed with the 980 Ti. They were pretty neck and neck in a lot of systems.
But liquid
a lot of
cooled
games.
and power hungry too, right?
Yep, just like this. This is competing with Intel's second best card and third best card, not
NVIDIA.
1 and 2.
I'm correcting
NVIDIA.
it before somebody puts a comment. Hey, Brad, you can't tell the difference between Intel.
Yeah, I'll blame the meds.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit different. It's interesting to me because at the very beginning of the year at CES, AMD put out that Drummer Boy video where it makes some noise and stuff, and it had that little quick flash that says poor Volta. It's supposed to say poor voltage.
Right.
And it covered it up so it said poor Volta. So they were taking shots at NVIDIA's next gen things all the way back in January. So people have been getting so hyped for it. And I think it's really interesting that they didn't manage to come anywhere near the 1080 Ti.
How's your reaction been among the fan base? Is it, anger, disappointment?
Anger.
Or
Mixed.
Definitely see some anger.
There was some anger. Yes, there definitely was some anger about how long people have had to wait versus what came out at the end. But on the flip side, a lot of people are really, really happy too, because a lot of people have invested in FreeSync monitors over the past couple of years. And these cards do compete performance-wise with the GTX 1080 and 1070.
Yeah.
So they have cards to use with those FreeSync monitors now. So
You have an option at least. Right?
Yeah.
Except you can't get the things, except that, at least you got something to feed your FreeSync panel. So,
yep. The thing is that the prices that they're selling for today, you always expect shortages when graphics cards, when processors, when new things launch. You expect that. But GTX 1080 is actually selling for around its MSRP now because some of the mining demand has led up. Maybe NVIDIA's put more volume into the channel, whatever. But you can actually get 580s or 1080s, pardon me, with custom cooling solutions for between $500 and $520. So with the prices that these cards are selling at with the Radeon packs with the inflated prices, if you're going to spend $500 on a Vega 56, probably don't. Just get a GTX 1080 instead. You might as well move up that next level of performance.
Yeah.
And likewise, Vega 64 is supposed to be $500, but they're selling for $700. At that point, it's like pushing people towards NVIDIA. You either actually spend $500 on a GTX 1080, or you might as well, if you're going to spend $700 anyway, get a GTX 1080 Ti.
yeah,
So-
and I will say this, there was unfounded. There were, people were whispering at the AMD event I was at, and they were saying, yeah, they fully expect NVIDIA to push out more volume to lower prices, and it looks like that may have happened, or at least interesting that the 1080 is now so cheap again, or more affordable anyway. It was $500 at one point, right, for a reference card.
The GTX 1080s were selling starting around 580 $600. These days, GTX 1070 are still 450 plus.
Yeah.
In which case, you really can't buy anything in that tier. You can't. The Vega 56 dried up immediately, which is disappointing. I was hoping there's going to be more stock. The GTX 1070 for $450 again. You might as well get a GTX 1080 out of this. I have a feeling that NVIDIA and its partners might be selling a whole lot of GTX 1080s right now.
Do you think has there been any word on how well the card mines? Because there were rumors that it was supposed to be a monster for mining, and I'm guessing that could be feeding us. Has anybody done any conclusive tests with it yet for mining?
It's not great. It's not great. It's a little bit better than a 580, but it uses scads more power, so it's not great. Something that angered a lot of people in the online and the various forums, communities, and whatnot, is that the whole reason these Radeon packs were introduced So these Radeon packs, you spend the extra $100, you get 2 games, you get coupons on different stuff. Was ostensibly what AMD said was to combat miners. So miners have to pay more,
Right.
which I never understood the logic, but whatever. But a lot of people got mad because 3 or 4 days after Vega 64's launch, AMD released a beta driver that greatly improved mining performance.
What?
So people felt that were mixed messaging was going on there, and we're not very happy about it.
How much did it improve the mining performance? Is it
I'm not sure.
significant? Okay.
I'm not sure.
That's, huh.
I was on vacation when that came out, so I was just looking at things on Twitter while I was hanging out at a beach. Be like, oh, that's interesting. Back to ignoring it.
I don't understand why they would come out afterwards. It's almost as like they're saying, yeah, we're getting beat up for gaming and the pricing, so why don't we make it appealing to miners?
Or they have to actually address the customers who managed to get the cards.
Oh, for
I
the
mean, they're
miners?
There is a lot of pent-up demand from gamers for this. But, I mean, miners are a sizable part of AMD's customer base. And as much as gamers hate it, I mean, you got to cater to who you're selling your cards to.
Right.
So
the miners are unhappy because they have to buy the packs now, I guess, to get the card? Is that what the...
Are they actually unhappy? Because I think they're just busy mining and making money.
Yeah, to me, it's like it's $100. Who cares? You know.
I mean,
it's not this
yeah.
Vega's not great for mining still, no matter
Yeah.
what.
Even
And I
with
think it's a
the
mix.
yeah.
I think it's a mixture of maybe some miners, but more. I have a feeling there's limited stock and a lot of people who have been waiting to upgrade from like the 390 or the 290 and limited stock.
Wow. Okay.
Well, there's some kind of questions on drivers.
Okay.
Well, when do you think AMD's drivers will catch up? And then do you have any thoughts on the Linux kind of open source drivers?
I didn't hear the first part of that. I heard the Linux part.
The first question was, when do you think AMD drivers will catch up?
I think AMD's driver situation in general is pretty competitive these days, actually. Since they formed the RTG group a couple years ago with Roger Kadorian at head, they've made software a big focus, and I think they are a lot better than they used to be. They release a lot of day one drivers. They just today released a driver that improved performance in PUBG by up to 18%, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and for the Destiny 2 beta, which starts today. So I think they're pretty much there. I think these Vega drivers are awfully messy. When it shipped, there were issues. You couldn't like overclock or undervolt it very well. The drivers wouldn't work well with it. Crossfire, as far as I know, is still not supported with these cards, even though it's been 2 weeks since Vega 64 launched. So it seems like they're catching up an awful lot there for Vega specifically. But in general, I think, pardon me, I think they do all right with drivers these days, essentially is what I'm saying. Linux, I don't know an awful lot about Linux drivers. I can't talk very knowledgeably about that.
Right. I don't know who's ahead these days, but
I know people like AMD's new Unified driver. I know that traditionally NVIDIA's drivers offered better performance, but it's been a black box, which, you know, people who like Linux don't necessarily like. But getting into performance, I don't test very often in Linux.
is there? It just sounds like there's just so much. I mean, the 56 is a good, relatively good part to have, but
It's a good card. I gave it 4 stars actually in our review.
You just can't get
If
it.
you can get it, that's the thing. And if you can get it at that $400 price. So going back to when I latched on to you saying that Best Buy was selling it for $500, that just seems ludicrous to me because as we've just covered extensively, at $500, you would just go with a 1080.
Yeah.
It's funny because I thought it could have been one of those Radeon packs because they were $100 more.
Right.
But it wasn't. You don't get the free games.
So weird.
There's none of the coupons. They're just like, yeah, we're going to get $500 for this. And they're sold out. So
Wow.
So, I remember right after the launch, there were all these stories saying AMD lied. They said the card was going to be $499. It's actually $599 for the card.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that? I mean, what did ever? I mean, and clearly people were
a whole lot of very messy back end he said, she said kind of deals. who knows what actually happened there. There are different ways to look at all the different things that retailers are saying versus AMD's leaks are saying, et cetera, et cetera. What matters at the end of the day is my whole screen just shook.
Yeah, I hit it with my elbow. I'm so angry.
Yeah.
I can't get my Vega 64 for less than. Go ahead.
It's how much you can pay for it, right? And right now you can't even pay for it. So
it's a real shame. It's a real shame.
It was the same when GTX 1080 came out. I mean, you couldn't get those for a while for anywhere near street price.
I know, but just if your gut is saying that you don't think there's going to be a lot of stock and it might be a while before we see it, and who knows, this could be another Fury X reenacted. Yeah. I think that's just a shame because there have been so many fans who've been holding out and really putting a lot of like heart and soul into waiting for Vega, and it just seems like a damn shame that they have to just kind of wait more when it's like so close and yet so far.
Yeah, I generally don't think people should tie themselves to brand. It's really, these are just products. They're making profits.
I don't even necessarily mean someone who's like a true like profound fan. I'm talking about someone who invested in the ecosystem. They have that really nice FreeSync monitor, right? Like, sure, we can tell them, go ahead, get the $500 1080 Ti, but now they don't get the adaptive refresh rate. And so if they wanted to reinvest in that ecosystem, they're going to have to shell out a hell of a lot more for a G-Sync monitor. You know what I mean? So it kind of puts that person in a rough spot.
Yeah.
I love FreeSync and G-Sync, but it makes me so sad at the same time because it does lock you in and you keep a monitor for 5-10 years.
Yeah.
So it's a bummer.
Yeah, you don't replace a monitor really that often.
I'm going to imagine NVIDIA's like, well, hey, boss, we need to support FreeSync yet? No. It's not
actually,
worry about that
good
now.
For AMD that they don't. Can you imagine if in the wake of all this, NVIDIA said, hey, we'll support FreeSync now. And then that's the one compelling reason to buy a Vega 64.
Yeah, but I think at the volumes the card is available at right now, it's better for NVIDIA to feed the G-Sync infrastructure. Why? Because it's like, yeah, whatever. What are you going to do? Go buy Matrox card? You got to buy our stuff or what? So... Yeah,
I did a big article right before Vega's launch comparing everything about FreeSync and G-Sync, and there actually are some pretty key differences. So if anybody's interested in that, be sure to go check it out on PC World because it's pretty long. It's like 2,000 words or something this long.
Yeah, you know what I'm actually interested in is, you're not going to get the adaptive sync, but if you have a high refresh FreeSync panel, you can still hit 120. So that's still a plus, assuming you get a high refresh, FreeSync panel, which is it's better than a poke in the eye, right? So,
and to be honest, once you get up to 120 plus, if you can feed it reasonably well, then you're not going to notice tearing that much anyway because it's refreshing so fast.
Right, and everything is just super smooth. So yeah, that I really need to try that just because we have a pretty high refresh FreeSync panel here. I think I should try that with a 1080 Ti and see whether it sucks or not. I mean, clearly G-Sync would be better because it would sync up, but hey, 120 is still pretty nice. I've never seen 120 not sync though, so well, I got to give that a shot. Oh boy, that must be so. So kind of controversy. One thing I wonder is the silver versus black edition. Has that made any difference? Does it just like because you have the cool aluminum that didn't make any?
The aluminum looks cool as hell. I didn't get an aluminum air cooled one. I only got
on the 64.
These ones.
Oh
yeah, 64. I got them right here. This is actually the 64.
Brad, people know that's in your house. You made yourself a target. They're gonna be like, this guy's got 3 of them. He's got a liquid cooled one.
That's why we waited to talk about this till after I was back from vacation.
Yes. So you need to sleep with that in bed. I got 3 Radeon cards.
So yeah, I didn't get the silver one. I assume it would be largely the same. It just is very, very pretty. But it's also selling for extra money now. So if you can even find it still, I think they might have been sold out completely.
Okay. Well, this all seems like we've done this before for some reason.
History repeats itself.
Okay. Any Vega questions, Vega review? Kind of just is there just like one big long sigh there, Dan? It's like everybody's like...
Well, people are going back and forth on the open source conversation.
Oh.
And then there's a couple threats on Brad. He might have some guests showing up on his door.
You mean because they know he's got all the cards? This guy, Brad, he's got all the cards.
Yes.
That's the only card I have, actually.
You need to have the cage. Up at Falcon, up at Falcon, they have like all the parts in a big giant cage, like at Costco, you know, for the important stuff. We went in there to look around. Brad, you need that for all the video cards you have. Do you have like
They sent the. Can you see that on the monitor? I don't know. They sent the reviewers a dead version of the GPU too. So that's what the GPU looks like. It's the great big die, and the two little stacks are the HBM2 memory. So whereas on traditional graphics card, it just has the big die, and then you have all the memory chips all the way around it. So they save a lot of space with this too inside of cards. Although with Vega, they had to have a big PCB to have a big fan.
Yeah. I saw something on Gamers Nexus where he had a theory that the HBM2 and the interposer was adding something like $80 to the price of the card, or $50. It was incredibly high. It was not pretty. I mean, for somebody trying to be competitive with a competing NVIDIA part. It just seems like I'm surprised they didn't think, well, maybe we do need a GDDR5X version, or GDDR5 even, you know, just.
Well, I mean, you can't just say, hey, we're going to make Vega with GDDR5 now. I mean, that you have to redo the whole PCB, change the memory controller. There's all kinds of technical difficulties to go into that.
But NVIDIA did that, right? Because Titan, whatever the Volt, whatever the Quadro, I can't remember the Teslas, those are HBM2. And then essentially the same die is reused down in a Titan XP as with GDDR5X, right? They sort of like, do they have two memory controllers? I forget what the conversation
NVIDIA makes a lot more money than AMD.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they create different GPUs for each segment of the market. So yes, they do make different versions, whereas AMD has to use this in everything. And while we're sitting here poo-pooing the gaming performance, this actually holds up pretty well in compute tasks. So I think what happened, in my opinion, I've been guessing this might happen ever since I heard about the high bandwidth cache controller in CES in January, is that this GPU was primarily designed to get AMD a foothold in that machine learning in the data center space. And that's where the thrust of the development is. So... And that's what they're doing with like the Vega Founder Edition, Radiant Instinct, all the other ones that use this exact same chip. So,
yeah, and there's just a ton
it doesn't
of money
hold
there,
up for gaming. So, or it does hold up for gaming, but it's hot and loud.
Yeah, and you can't get it. So
yeah, and you can't get it.
I'm sure you'll be able to get the compute version for, I don't know, X amount of thousands of dollars.
One interesting thing actually is I haven't had much chance to play with it myself. But you just mentioned Steve at Gamers Nexus. He's done a bunch of undervolting tests, which is where you can still overclock it, but you reduce the voltage draw to the chip. And he found in his samples, at least, you could get a lot more performance with a lot less power usage undervolting it. So if you do wind up with one of these, that might be something you want to look into. If you go look up on Google how to undervolt your graphics card, you'll find tutorials.
But I'm just wondering why. But why would AMD, you know, pump so much voltage into it if they didn't need it? Is he getting more? So he's undervolting it and he's getting more performance?
Well, you can overclock it at the same time.
Oh, okay, got it.
These are big expensive dies. These are big expensive chips. They need as many of them as possible to be good. So if you overvolt it and say, hey, we can get to this level of performance with this voltage, then 20% more of these chips will be good at this voltage. Then you do that.
Yeah, but I would think they would just bin it out and say, you know, we made these high-end cards, or this one requires this much voltage, and, you know, they can just sort of let different AIBs, add-in board vendors, build different versions of it.
I'm actually looking very interested for AIB versions because I think get a good cooler on this. It might be very interesting to see how it reacts because the liquid cooled version does have a sizable increase in clock speeds and, you know, less thermal throttling. So I'm very curious to see what happens when custom versions do indeed come along.
Okay. So Vega 64, what was the final verdict in stars on that one? That was
average.
Average.
If you want free, if you have FreeSync, consider it if you don't mind the noise and the power draw. If you do mind the noise in the power draw, get a GTX 1080.
And 56 better, 4.5 stars. I think you gave that one.
It was 4.
Four.
Okay.
It's 4 for the 56, and then the air-cooled 64 was a 3.5 star.
Yep.
And liquid
Yeah.
was 1.5.
Liquid is 1.5.
56 is definitely the one to get if you're going to get one, if you can find one. It's a little bit faster than GTX 1070, which itself was faster than last generation's 980 Ti Titan X. So it still, does a good job. And it doesn't use a crazy amount of power. So the Vega 56 is definitely the star of the show. Definitely don't get the liquid cooled version.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you wonder why bother with that one. So, okay. Well, all right.
My least favorite part, just to nitpick about the liquid cooled version, is on the Fury X. The tubing came out the rear of the card and was enough to get it so you could put the radiator in the back of your case.
Yeah.
For Vega 64, it comes out right on the front edge of your card, right beyond the I/O panel, and they're super duper massively long. So when you put the radiator right above it, right where it comes out, you just have this massive clump of cables cluttering up your case. And I'm kind of OCD about that stuff, so I didn't like it.
Okay. But it does light up.
It's very pretty.
That's the pretty part. Okay.
Flashing
All
lights
right.
to distract you from all the Medusa nest of cables.
All right. Well, that's Vega.
The wait is over.
The wait is over, and it turns out the entire warehouse full of drums, there were only 5 of them. So, like, the other ones were not. Yeah.
The weight is
Make some noise. What, there's just 5 in the band? Where's the rest of the band? Yeah, that's...
Is the wait really over though? If you couldn't get one, I'm just gonna put that out there.
Yeah.
It's like the whole question.
Well, now we know. I mean, for God, it was just forever. Like, is it going to be
No,
faster than 1080? Is it
I
going to be
know what
slower
you
than
meant.
1080?
I'm just
Is it gonna
saying.
cost more? It's going to cost less. So, I mean, that part is, yeah, we know.
I think the wait is over because looking at like Amazon most sold items and stuff shortly after Vega 64 launched, there are an awful lot of GTX 1080s.
Oh,
RAMs.
it's just painful.
Yeah.
And I'm going to note, I am wearing a red shirt. Somebody's wearing green shirts today. Lena and
It
Brad.
wasn't even coordinated. You can't even see it on camera, but mine is a Super Mario shirt.
Yeah, and green.
It's a 1-up shirt.
Whoa.
You can't see it though.
Well, you got a Super Luigi shirt then, right? Because Mario's red, if I remember right. Right? So you got the Super Luigi.
Yeah.
Man, that just sucks for Luigi if you think about that.
Oh, a second fiddle. Oh, a second
It's
fiddle.
always like nobody even knows his name. It's all about Mario. Mario this, Mario that. What about Luigi? Luigi's doing half the
There was
work.
Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, but still, it's probably about Mario, right? Did they ever get like Super Luigi game?
Well, Luigi was the star, I think, in the Haunted Mansion one.
I just don't remember that one.
I don't.
Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah, I didn't play that one.
Yeah, because nobody did because there's no Mario. Oh, man, that just sucked.
Oh, the cool kids are playing Pokemon anyway.
Just saying. It's just like Luigi's just like, oh man, he needs to get off the Cavaliers. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Whenever we win, it's all about Mario. When we lose, it's Luigi's fault. I'm gone. I'm going to Boston. Sorry, that's a basketball. Kyrie, forget it.
Still bitter, huh?
No, because I'm a Warriors fan. So bitter for Cavaliers fans.